A rough night in Philly for the Leafs. Now they gotta have to find a way to bounce back quickly with the back-to-back against the Capitals. I'll discuss the loss against the Flyers and more on this edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, your source for all things Leafs. I'm your host, David Morassutti from Sportsnet. A reminder that the Locked On Leafs podcast is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. So make sure you subscribe free wherever you get your podcasts from. Make sure you also subscribe on YouTube, Locked On Leafs, as we continue our push for 5,000 subscribers. We're just four, as I'm currently recording this, 4 subscribers away from 4,800. So we're really pushing that. Really to get that 5,000 mark, and then we'll be giving away a jersey once we do reach that mark. As you can see, also Mike is not with me today. He is away this week, so I am doing the show solo for today. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Well, if anybody actually purchased a ticket to go and watch the Leafs in Philadelphia, it was a very disappointing return to after just a few days ago, where the Leafs had one of their better games in a long time. Where they that game they were dominant, they won 6-2. This game, you couldn't even use that word for the Leafs tonight. I'll tell you that, right? This is a game where if you look at the score, 4-2, you lose that game 4-3. They're losing 4-2 for part of it, and then they try to make it the late comeback. Losing 4-3, you think, that was a close one for the Leafs. I'm sorry to say that, this was a team that decided to play one period of hockey, when they were down. And there's just so much in this game where, did I think the Leafs were absolutely terrible? You go into this situation here where you kind of kick and scream at the same old thing over and over again. This team does wrong, not ready to play, give up the goal in the opening minute. They were not good. I'm not even going to make any excuses for this team or anything like that. They were not good. You give up a goal that early in a hockey game, it shows you just weren't ready for it. And to me, that's just inexcusable. You're on the road. And I said going into the game in my preview, go back and watch the last episode. I dare you guys to. I said this is going to be a tough game for the Leafs because they're playing a desperate Flyers team. A Philadelphia Flyers team is playing for their playoff lives right now, okay? Let's not forget, they're at 78 points. The teams behind them, Washington and the Islanders specifically, right on their heels. The Capitals are 3 points back, have 2 games in hand. Flyers are in a pretty much in a situation where they cannot afford to lose. And what does John Tortorella do going into this game? He sends a message to his group. Also creates a lot of buzz in the media because it's kind of John Tortorella style. And he healthy scratches the captain, Sean Couturier, who, if you look, has not been playing well. So what does John, and with his team in a bit of a spiral, what does John Tortorella do? He tells his group, you guys haven't been playing good enough. I'm sending a message by sitting our captain. It got a lot of buzz. A lot of people in Philly were talking about it. But guess what? There's one team that played like they needed to win that game tonight, and it wasn't the Toronto Maple Leafs. The effort the Flyers gave, you saw it. First minute of the game. They went right after the puck. Leafs were very last days, very nonchalant after winning the opening faceoff. And 20 seconds later, it's in the back of your net. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable that the Leafs knew that the Flyers are going to be coming off. It was a big effort. Their captain got scratched. A lot of people are talking about how this team is in a bit of a downward spiral. The Leafs knew what was going to be coming at them, and that's how they responded. Look, and I've seen the people comment. I've seen all the talk about how Leafs are not ready. They don't look like a playoff team. I totally get that. A game like tonight shows. Game like against the Hurricanes, where you're up 2 goals late in the third period and you piss away the lead. Totally get it, guys. I do. A game like tonight against the Flyers shows, look, if we don't put in the effort, we're not winning. And it's not just the effort offensively. Defensively, if you are not putting that effort in your own zone, it does not matter what you do offensively. Because you know what? There's times where you cannot outscore your problems because the other team can have a hot goaltender. That team is going to say, you know what? If we really just tighten up, make them really try for the chance offensively, we know we can beat them in their own zone because they're not putting in the effort. That was what we saw from this team tonight. Essentially, the Flyers said, you know what? Opening minute of the period, we're really going to put the pressure on them. Likely could have a good chance to score. And they did it twice, first and second period. Bad enough that they did it once. It's worse when they did it twice. All right. So this game here, and I'm going to get into the good and the bad and the ugly, and I'll dive more into what exactly I did not like. But looking at a game like this, it just shows how the fine line between being a playoff team and not. Right? A team that's serious about contending and a team that's, you know what, we're okay just getting into the playoffs and flipping a switch when it matters. Doesn't work like that. We've seen it year in, year out. And I'm going to hear from in the comments, and I'm going to call them out. Your star players. Look, Mitch Marner. Yes, Mitch Marner is an important player on this team. I get it. But there are other players on this team that are getting paid a lot of money that should be playing a lot better than they have been. Okay? Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares. Those three especially. Core 4, you lose a guy, you still have a trio. A lot of teams would do well with 3 players that are capable of playing at that level. You have to play to that capability. And they haven't done it. Sorry to say, they haven't done it. In a game like tonight, you really, really see what happens when your best players don't have that effort. You see it when your blue line, you know, lets the details slip. Things like that happen. So, what exactly went wrong? Let's get into it in the good, bad, here in the ugly here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep a ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to the Locked On Leafs podcast. David Morassutti here. As you can tell, doing this show solo today. Really wouldn't want to subject the guest host I was going to have tonight to me constantly ranting about this team. And honestly, why put somebody through the pain of talking about this game after what happened? I'm going to take the hit. I'm going to do this show solo tonight. I will likely have somebody on, win or lose, against the Washington Capitals. I have some guys lined up that have offered to help. When Mike goes out, it's funny how many people come in and offer to help me. It's almost as if I can't handle it by myself. I appreciate the support, guys. I really do. I love when I have co-hosts on. It makes my job a little easier, so I'm not talking for too long. And I know some of you guys don't even want to hear my voice the entire podcast. Yeah, I don't know that. So let's get back to this game, though. Good, bad, and the ugly. Man, after every win and every loss, we do things that, they win 3 stars. Love to have to do 3 stars more often than not. Good, bad, and the ugly after a loss. A game like this, good, man. A game like this, you have to be fair, okay? Because the good thing, at least they scored on the power play. Got that power play goal. The team has really struggled on the power play, and it's been a big talking point. 1 for 3 on the night. Good. They didn't allow a goal on their penalty kill. They went perfect. That hasn't happened in a little bit. So I guess is a good. The Leafs were actually really good on the face-off dot, over 60% in the game. You know, that's actually a very favorable stat. William Nylander scores a goal. I thought there was times where he looked good. Again, there was times where he didn't look good. Like it's like one or the other in this sort of game, right? Where you have a guy you say, "Oh yeah, he played pretty good," and then you look at the clips, you're like, "Yeah, but he did that. That was pretty bad. Like pretty soft coverage on, especially like the opening goal, right? Not really playing it properly. Things like that, where the good outweigh the bad with a game like Nylander had. I thought Tavares wasn't bad. 3-point night for him. Obviously, a couple of points on the power play, scoring that goal late. I think the other good, you could say the good, but you kind of want to also talk negative about it, is that where did Tavares and Bertuzzi score their goals? In the slot. Got to get into that slot. You can't be cheating for offense, but you got to get yourself in those positions to score. So I do like that those guys are continually putting themselves in position to score in those areas. So I guess you can say that's good. The bad. Oh boy. Where do I start? I'm not even going to pick on one thing specifically in the bad, but I'm going to start with the play in the defensive zone. I guess many would say it's ugly, but what was bad about it was you had defensemen. Look, I didn't think Samsonov had a great game. Sheldon Keefe also believes he didn't have a great game. No one on the team had a great game. What really irked me was the Philadelphia Flyers had 36 block shots. The Leafs had 9. 9 blocked shots. To me, that really annoys me because a couple of the goals, the Leafs, there was traffic in front of Samsonov. You legitimately, and look, I've defended Morgan Riley on this podcast because I think sometimes he gets unfair criticism. Look, he has his good moments, he has his bad moments. When you deliberately, it was the Morgan Frost goal where Morgan Riley skates in front of his goaltender and he blocks his line of sight, screens him, chance to potentially even block the shot, and he doesn't even block the shot. You can make a goalie's life so much easier if you get in front of some shots and block it. And the Flyers didn't score a lot of goals in the slot, right? That's the part that's a killer here. A lot of the goals came from out. Oh, not even in those high danger areas. And how do you mitigate some of those chances and some of those goals? Get in front of the puck. Leafs did not do that. Okay. I mean, look, you can look at the stats for tonight and you can say, the Leafs didn't, the Leafs had the majority of the, 10 to 8 in high danger chances, right? The Leafs had a higher expected goals for the night. Okay, sure. Yeah, that's great. How about the fact that, looking at the 5-on-5, all 4 goals scored by the Flyers, 3 of them were scored above the face-off dot in the offensive zone. 2 of them in areas that you don't expect teams to score. Not really expected to score that often. That's something there. If you're Sheldon Keefe, you're showing that stat and you're saying we did not do a good enough job of getting in front of shots, making it tough for them to get those pucks on net. Inexcusable in a lot of ways. Another bad for this game. I mean, I don't think Samsonov was bad. I mean, it's unfortunate you lose Ryan Reeves after the fight. I didn't see any update on Reeves after the game. It looked like he must have punched the helmet, right? That was one. You also saw the eye was swollen shut after a tough fight. Delorier is not an easy customer. He is, again, in that Reeves heavyweight conversation. So I would assume the eye being shut probably played a factor in Reeves not coming back to that game. And look, at that point, the Leafs weren't a Ryan Reeves away from getting back into this game, of course. Like, it's just bad that he had that happen to him, right? So I didn't think that, bad in that regard that he didn't come back. Not bad that he lost looked like he lost the fight. He got some good shots in. Let's go to the ugly, because going into with Eli Lyubushkin sidelined, Sheldon Keefe revealed what his defensive pairings were going to look like. And I probably should have brought this up on the show yesterday. I didn't really have as much time to talk about because we were just focusing mostly on the injuries. But Sheldon Keefe, look, he called out players, and I think it's rightfully so. The coach needs to call a guy when his team doesn't play well. But at some point, too, this coach needs to start learning his lesson. And look, a lot of people are going to defend Sheldon Keefe because the players didn't play well. And yes, I don't think this game is all Sheldon Keefe's fault. But how many times are you going to put TJ Brody and Morgan Rielly together and expect good things to happen? It hasn't worked. TJ Brody's having one of his worst seasons in the blue and white. He's struggling this year. Morgan Rielly has had good games. He's also had bad games, bad stretches. It has been proven those two guys cannot play together. And Sheldon Keefe, with Eli Lyubushkin out, decides, you know what? I'm just going to go with hopefully Rielly and Brody can work together. Well, I'm going to show. It's one of my favorite follows right now on X. It's hockey stat cards. So essentially what these guys do is after games, they post cards basically where they let me see if I can get a better image here so that it's going to be a little harder for you to read this on YouTube. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see. So essentially, for those who aren't familiar with hockey stat cards, essentially what they do is they take the game score to show, in a game like tonight, who didn't have in the stats wise. Look, eye tests and stats got to come together. I understand that. But if you really say this guy didn't have a good night, hockey stat cards usually proves or usually backs that up. So as you can see, TJ Brody here, for those who are listening on audio, TJ Brody, you see the purple here would suggest his on ice defense, not very good. Okay. Him and Rielly had the worst mark on the team for defensemen. Max Domi also did not get a high score for his defensive play 2 tonight. Matthews and Bertuzzi were also in the negative. Timothy Liljegren and Joel Edmondson were in the negative. Really none of the defensemen got a good game tonight. It kind of underscores Sheldon Keefe's comments after the game that nobody really did anything good. The only players, again, I talked about how Tavares had a pretty good game. Everything was kind of on the right side of the positive end in a game like that. So just for those who want to see kind of how, again, go follow these guys on X. Pretty good fall. They do all NHL games, so it's really good data. If you kind of want to get a sense of who's doing well and who's kind of struggling on a night case, game per game case. But just back to the Sheldon Keefe thing. Look, he can talk about how the team's effort's not there and all those things. I also think the coach's job is to assess chemistry within his lineup. When players are doing well and when players aren't doing well. When we have been talking about this Rielly Brody situation for a long time, right? And Sheldon Keefe kind of refuses to really see that, in my opinion. He could have tried something different tonight. Put Jake McCabe with Morgan Rielly. If you're going to play a lefty, if you're going to do Brody on the right side, have Brody and Simon Benoit play together. Right? Do something else. If you don't want to move Joel Edmondson and Liljegren, you want to keep that pairing together, that's fine. Try McCabe and Rielly together. something else. Those are the things that frustrate me. I think Sheldon Keefe, look, he does good things. What I think he struggles at is assessing chemistry within his team. Finally decides to put Max Domi with Austin Matthews because you need someone with a little more with some playmaking ability, someone he has more comfort to play with in that offensive zone. I also think get Matthew Nyes back up with Austin Matthews too. You know what? If you're gonna put Bertuzzi with Matthews, do it when Marner's back. Don't do it with Marner out of the lineup. I think you need to get some guys who have some chemistry with Matthews. Get Nyes with there. You can put Domi there. Okay. You can put Nylander there if you have to. When you're dealing with a significant subtraction with with Marner out of the lineup, get guys who have played with Matthews. Like Pontus Holmberg, I'm sorry. I don't even think he should play in the next game. I didn't think he was very good. I don't think he's been worthy of playing on the first line. I know that they talk glowingly about him, Matthews and all those guys. A message needs to be sent when guys don't play well. And not just because, Matthews thinks he did very well. He didn't. Haven't played well. Okay? Reward guys who are playing well. And also, you know what? Maybe consider making some different switches. One person actually also suggests, I saw next, why not try Robertson with Austin Matthews? And look, I don't hate the suggestion because I think you get that's Austin Matthews does want to. I think with Austin Matthews, when he's playing without Mitch Marner, he's what he's trying to do is he's trying to show teams you can come after me. I'm gonna go pass it to the other guys and they're gonna make you pay. Fortunately, that hasn't happened either. But I also think Nick Robertson. I mean, it wouldn't be a fair, I guess, promotion to the top line too, though, right? Like I think he struggled too tonight. Like he had some brutal giveaways, so I don't even know if Sheldon Keefe's even going to consider that just because he's very hard on him. But yeah, I think it's a tough one here. Sheldon Keefe has got a tough job to do to try to figure out what different changes he can make. And look, you got it back to back. It's not like you can make sweeping changes to this lineup and things magically get better. But I think you look at this game and you say, all right, let's realize things are not working. We need to change for going into the next game. So Riley Brody, they're probably going to play together again tonight against the Capitals, just based on what I've seen. But if Sheldon Keefe really wants to show that he's going to make things different and it really change things when they're not working, he would not play Riley and Brody together. He would play Austin Matthews with different people. And also, look, have the conversation with Austin Matthews that with Mitch Marner out, you need to do more. Okay? That's the other thing too, right? Austin Matthews needs to start playing better. Right? Guys who haven't been playing to their potential need to start playing to their potential as well. So it's going to be tough. I'm going to we'll preview the game going against the Capitals next year on Locked On These podcasts. Another team that's in a position where they really, really are pushing for that playoff spot. They're digging themselves out of a little bit of hole. They're playing with a little bit more confidence. Things are kind of going well for them. So we'll kind of break down the matchup, and look at what the Leafs need to do better going into this game against the Capitals here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer last-minute deals, all in price, views from your seat, and their best price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. It's a great experience, especially if you're looking for an event that you're not sure if you're getting the best deal. Game Time does its best to make sure that you are getting the best deal in the areas of the stadium you want to sit at. You can do their zone deals. You can do also last minute ticket if you're that person that wants to see if prices were to go down. And show you the view for your seats, so you make sure that you are not. You make sure you're getting the best seat possible for where you want to be. All right. Now, Game Time also has deals on tickets right up to the start event, even after the event starts. It's the place to find last minute seats, find exclusive deals and sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to the Locked On Leafs podcast. David Morassutti here. Mike DeStefano not here with me this week. He's away. I actually don't even know where he is right now on his vacation. So hopefully he's enjoying himself, because the Leafs, they didn't really give a good experience tonight to watch. So just a reminder, though, we are pushing to get our subscriber count up on YouTube. We want to get to that 5,000 mark, hopefully before the playoffs. That's kind of where we really want to get some momentum. Hopefully the Leafs also try to get some momentum too going into the playoffs. But we're 204 subscribers away from 5,000. I really, really think the last 28 days, the last month, we had over 200 subscribers hop onto the podcast. So we hope you guys are among those that have been subscribing. Hope you're enjoying the content. We always try to strive to improve, and hopefully that's what happens for the Leafs, because there's a lot to need to improve on. Obviously, with the Washington Capitals, who honestly, I didn't have this team in the playoffs going into this year. I didn't have a lot of faith that they could get into the playoffs. They're a team that I guess really have been treading water. They've been doing enough to stay in the race. It also kind of helps that the Flyers have taken a step back. The third place in the Metro is not going to be the most desirable, considering you got that first round matchup against either the Hurricanes or the Rangers, who have been playing great hockey this year. So yeah, that third place team, as much as you're going to be pushing to get into the playoffs, you're not going to maybe not like the outcome in the first round. But they've had some impressive wins since the trade deadline. They've really found a bit of a groove. They've also had some brutal losses. So, this is a team I'm really struggling to grasp here in a way. But obviously, Ovechkin back up to the 20 goal mark. He's the first player in NHL history to start 19 straight seasons of his career with 20 plus goals, which I think is pretty incredible. And reason why he is on the watch for beating Wayne Gretzky's record. But, Capitals team, they beat a Flames team that, had been playing a little bit better. Ovechkin had 2 goals. Nick Jensen had a couple points. It's a team that also sold off a little bit at the trade deadline. And maybe the thing that the Leafs can potentially take advantage of going into this game is the fact that the Capitals are coming off a Western road trip, played in Calgary on Monday, and they're playing at home. So the travel, and you're kind of gotta have to take advantage of a team that's maybe got a little bit of, getting back into the swing of the East Coast here. We know how the Leafs did in their first game back from the West. So maybe this is an opportunity for the Leafs to, get rid of the bad taste of the loss from the Flyers, while also taking advantage of a Capitals team that might not even be at their best going into this game. So, I do look at this as an opportunity for the Leafs to say, you know what, we haven't been playing great. 2 brutal losses in a row. Let's just, get ourselves back into a groove a little bit here. All right. Again, the Leafs should beat the Capitals. I shouldn't really be much of a question, but I know a lot of people are going to question the Leafs' ability to even win that game. It is totally, totally fair. So if you look at this game too, and where things are going right for the Capitals, I think it looks at their defense. They're allowing fewer goals. I mean, they had a brutal 7-2 loss against Edmonton, but they've also been, they also beat the Canucks 2-1, one of the top offensive teams in the league, right? So Yeah, I would say the inconsistency. You're not sure what you're going to get from the Capitals, but they're getting some better goaltending from Charlie Lindgren, who is kind of taken over a little bit here in net. He is looking at the stats right now. He has a 956 save percentage over his last 6 starts. It's pretty good goaltending, and usually teams that go on a bit of a run is because their goaltenders are standing on their head a little bit here. And right now, the Capitals' odds to make the playoffs sit at 53.4% according to Money Puck, which, again, because they hold the games in hand advantage on the Flyers, and they're, in a right now they're in that position to be the second wild card team. If they take advantage of the fact that they have some games in hand on both the Red Wings here. They don't have games in hand on the Lightning, but they do have a better points percentage than the Red Wings right now. They don't against the Flyers, but a win against the Leafs would definitely change that. So if you're the Leafs, what should they be locked in on tonight? Another team that's desperate and playing for their playoff lives. Almost mirror the two situations for the Capitals and the Flyers. Like, these are games that the Leafs should be taking more seriously because desperate teams really up the pressure and the effort. And that's something the Leafs are going to have to combat against. They haven't brought that effort. So if I'm Sheldon Keefe, the start of the game, let's see if this team can respond a little bit with a better start. Really, really hunker things down defensively. That's another one I think you're going to have to be the key they're going to have to be locked in on tonight. Really, really make sure that you're not giving things up easily for the Capitals. Look, Alex Ovechkin, not having an Alex Ovechkin season based on what we've seen from him in the past, but he's still dangerous. He is still finding ways to get pucks into the net. Again, not at the rate that we're used to seeing from Alex Ovechkin, but he's got goals in back-to-back games. He did go a period of 4 games without scoring a goal, but again, you can't take a guy like Ovechkin lightly. He knows that this is a big game against the Leafs, and he's a big-time player. So Leafs are going to have to really be locked in on that. I would expect Joseph Woll will get the start. He didn't even dress tonight, which assumes that they just want to give him the total night off, not even dress. So I think you're going to have to hope that Joseph Woll gives you a little bit of confidence because, look, a lot of people are anointing Samsonov as a starter. In a way, I said if the playoffs start today, it'd be Samsonov number 1. But with the way this team is playing, if Joseph Woll puts together a good stretch, that conversation gets a lot more convincing in terms of really having a debate of who starts game 1 here. So we'll see how that all happens here. We'll be on the next episode. We'll kind of obviously dive into everything in the game and how the Leafs fared in the back-to-back against the Capitals. We'll also bring up more from the GM meetings. There were some interesting little tidbits that came out of it. We'll do kind of a wrap on that in the next episode where we have a little bit more time to discuss. I want to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. Thank you for subscribing. Make sure you tell all your friends to go and subscribe to us on YouTube as we try to get to 5,000 subscribers. Make sure you follow the show on X at Locked On Leafs, and you can also follow myself at _Morassutti. Until next time, keep locked right here on Locked On Leafs.